Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome to the Dental Wealth Podcast. Matthew, you're a virtual Matthew.
Virtual Matthew. I'm like here, but I'm not here.
Matthew is in our Dallas location, and he's coming to us live, and he's going to be out there for the future, and he's got to get a cowboy hat and some big, some ropers,
a belt buckle, and some shoes. I'll be all right.
And maybe he'll come back and bless us with a cowboy hat or something next episode. So just to let you know, this is our first movement this way, and so Matthew is in the virtual studio. So we're excited about a great episode. So Matthew, how's the Texas location going? You're set up?
I'm set up. I just got to start getting some pictures behind me so it doesn't look like just a gray wall. Right now I feel like I'm doing one of those interviews where I'm like, so let me tell you about my life. Let me tell you my story.
Well, it's let's see. This is 4th of July week. So
yep.
I always feel like when it's 4th of July week, we should do some type of a 4th of July episode. But we should tie that into business, scalability, and growing practice,
yes,
and group practices, and how all that plays together. The evolution of the Dental Wealth Podcast. And Rhea, you had brought something up actually before this, because you had asked me what we were talking about. Just so most of you know, audience-wise, this is, we try to make these topics that you're sending to us and off the cuff a little bit because, some of the greatest conversations come off when you're not over-prepared, when you can just have a frank conversation. And I like that format, right? So many things are over-prepared, even things like, even some shows you watch or things you watch are so over-prepared, you think they're live, but they're really just acting. But at the Dental Wealth Podcast, we comes to you raw, uncut, and real every week.
Raw and uncut.
Actually, I'm sure Reese cut some things out because I'm sure I dropped some F-bombs or something. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's all the singing. It's the singing between takes.
The singing
it's like
between takes.
Karaoke in here.
Yeah, that's right. And every now and then, he doesn't ever ask me when he puts those blooper reels up, and I'm always like, uh-oh, that's not good. So I got to watch out.
See how this is going to look. American Idol is gonna come calling. Don't worry.
So let's go to this freedom thing. So here's what's going to end up happening. This is July 4th week.
Yep.
One of three things are happening right now in your practice. Ultimately, you're going to shut down for the week, and you're going to lose money. Now, you might shut down on the front side or the back side of the holiday. Either way, you're going to shut down, and you're going to lose money, right? You're going to shut down and you're going to gain money, right? Because you're going to have other people, or at least keep things stable, right? With the 4th of July,
three things.
With the 4th of July coming up, I mean, when we look at scalability and growing a business and group business and those types of things, we go, look, either I got doctors to ultimately going to be there and they're going to run the practice, and maybe you guys, switched up the schedule and you're working different days, or you're not having to work clinically at all, even better. So the schedule is running without you and you're on vacation, or you've closed this business down, right? And now you're like, we're just going to shut down the business. Or maybe you didn't get to take a vacation at all because the fact that you were stuck and you had to see patients. And so it's like one of those three things. Either you're stuck in the practice, you don't have a choice, you shut down because you said, oh, hell with it, or you're in a position where you can go on vacation and not lose revenue. And so it's just like a wake-up phone call. I mean, when you think about your week coming up, what did you do? What are your three options? Like, what did you pick out of that list? And by the way, you might be listening to this 3 weeks after the 4th of July. That's okay. I think most of us can, in our minds, think back a few weeks or a few months.
Yeah.
Hey, did you have the ability, the scalability, and the systems to have the practice run without you being there? Did you have that? Did you have availability to that? Did you have a team of people? Did you have operational team members? Did you shut down? Sometimes when we shut down, interestingly enough, we shut down and we give all these reasons. Well, the team really needed some time off, and I wanted to make sure everyone was taken care of. And by the way, I want all team members to be taken care of. If you don't miss what I'm saying here. But we make these excuses to shut down. And then here's the thing, and Matthew, you know this too. Like, somebody will come back and they'll be like, I had a really, really crappy February. So tell me about that. well, I closed down for 2 weeks and went to on vacation. I'm like, well, okay. I mean, what did you expect?
Did you plan ahead for that? Yeah, like, did you plan ahead for that? No. I've just had it on the calendar. I love how when 4th of July or any of these vacations come up, doctors automatically, they go to their peers and say, you're shutting down, right? And everybody's like, yeah, we're all shutting down. Well, and then when you talk to them, they say, well, how was your July? They say, well, it was down like everybody else's because everybody was shut down.
That's right.
Well, what do you mean?
There's one statement that if you say, like, you got to watch out is when you say, like everyone else. We did what everybody else did, right? Which is remember, the average dental practice grows at 2.5%. Now, if you are going to look at large group practices, did they shut down? No, they're open. They're open and they're available to see people. I'm sure they're going to shut down the 4th. But obviously, which is a Sunday, by the way, anyhow, so most people aren't going to be working. But when we look at your business, it's just like one of those times when we take stock and we say, look, where is my business at today? And am I the person who's stuck in the chair all day long? And maybe this is a wake-up call for some people who maybe listen to this podcast but haven't taken action, and they turn in week to week and they listen to it, but they haven't made significant movements. It's the amount of people that have come to Tower Leadership because of this podcast is pretty strong, right? We've had a lot of people come because they hear a different message and a message that should be happening more prevalently in the marketplace. But and by the way, if you do have scalable systems, congratulations. I think that you say, well, look, we stayed open and we were all able to take vacation time and it worked within a schedule. Maybe you split it between 2 shifts, or, some people took the week on one side and some people took the week on the other side. And maybe you reduced productivity to some degree and you were okay with that. But I remember years ago, and being in a sales job, this was in the finance world, and this was like a decade or so ago. And I remember the training people would say, look, you can go on vacation if you want, but understand that if you're supposed to see this many appointments in a week, you got to make that up. Like, you can't come to the sales meeting at the end of the month and say, well, I just didn't hit the numbers. And why didn't you hit the numbers? I was on vacation all week. You still got to hit the numbers. You still got to produce. And if you don't produce, you don't have a job. Well, so this idea of scalability and this idea of moving scalability and this idea of continuing to grow and to continue to scale is when we look at July 4th, Independence Day. Obviously we want to give credit to, obviously why the holiday is there and our independence. But I would say this is a great time for you to look at independence in your business, independence from being stuck to the chair, independence from having to worry about every little detail, independence about having to hire people, independence away from dealing with every financial question, independence from CPA that doesn't know how to help you guide your business, independent from people that are telling you to take money outside your business but not invest it inside while private equity is pouring tons of money into it, right? Independence of trying to find the doctors but having a system that brings them in, right? Independence from some of these things that weigh us down to a point where we can't even, we want to sell it. I mean, I literally was working with a doctor and they were literally almost getting ready to sell because of their operational concerns. We made one hire. It changed the entire operational picture of the business. And now they're like, oh my gosh, we just want to keep growing and building and creating. Look, that's independence, right? Independence from those things that are stressing us down. You got to understand that you've got to take a business, and if you want to grow and scale it, and now if you just say, Eric, but I love being in the dental chair, that's fine. Go hire your C-suite then. Go hire the people who can do it. It's probably not your office manager that's been there for 28 years. She doesn't know how to do it. But hiring the right people who can come in and help you, or the right advisory team that can come in and help you and show you what to do next. It's interesting. I was talking this morning about, in any organization, there's people on one side of the spectrum that are the salespeople that are saying, hey, let's do it. You got the finance people saying, let's not do it. And then you got people in the middle who have to deal with whatever you said to do or not do. And so we look at the business and we say, look, if you're if you're the person who says, I just want my head down and be in the chair all day long, completely fine. But you got to have your let's do it. Like, you got to make things happen. You got to continue to go and put action into place. You also have to have the systems to be able to look at the things to not do, right? And scalability around that. And then your team is ultimately going to have to deal with whatever consequences come out of that. So then somebody has to deal with that. And then all of those things have to be done. And are you dealing with those things on a day-to-day basis? And is that why you feel you have no independence? And is that why you're getting way down and you're entertaining conversations about selling your practice off for so much low? The economic value and market value are so different. And you're selling this practice off for $800,000 when the economic value is $6 million, because you're dealing with a little stress because you haven't created the systems to create independence.
Yep. And I think it's almost like, when I think of this, it's almost like a challenge for, next Independence Day. So 2022, 4th of July. What can you do from here to then to make sure that you're on the path to independence from your practice? So for all the listeners that are listening in today, I challenge you to think about that. So for next 4th of July, what can you do in the next 12 months to make sure that 4th of July is you celebrating your independence from the dental practice?
So give yourself a tangible goal, right? I mean, make that independence be, strictly that. Maybe your independence is that I'm going to take a week off and not lose any revenues. Maybe it's I'm going to take a month off from having to deal with most of the management functions. What is it that ultimately would make this practice? I mean, you can sit down and write about it and say, hey, look, what in this practice would make me feel like it was just a joy to run? And I loved doing it, and I loved showing up every day. Like, I would write that down. Like, what do I love? Like make yourself a list, and on one side say, what do I love about this business? What do I love coming and doing every day? What are the things that give me tons of energy that I would do? Even if I wasn't paid, I would do them just because they passionately get me out of bed. What are those activities? What are the? Then I'd write down, what are the activities that I'll do, I just don't really love to do, but I'll do them. And then write down the activities you loathe, the activities that you want nothing to do with. And then what you do is that simple list. Well, by the way, write this list down. You create this list and then turn around and you take that list and say, okay, now, if it's anything I hate doing, I'm getting someone else to do it. It's just who. And so you say, well, I'm going to get someone else to do this list. This, by the way, there's people, the list that you hate, the things you hate to do, someone loves those things, I guarantee.
And more than likely, they're in your practice.
That's right. I mean, it's true. Mine is always calendars. Oh my gosh. So anyone listening, my brain does not work with calendars to save my life. I don't know why, but it's like in the book Financial Evolution, I actually put my son's birthday as the 17th and it's the 18th. It was laughing because it was like, oh my God, I'm so bad with calendars and dates and all that. It's just not, my brain doesn't work in that. That's not what I focus on. I mean, it's just not my thing. Emails, oh my gosh, do not send me an email. I'm not going to read it, especially if you decide to spend 14 paragraphs in an email. I don't know what you're doing with your time that you have time to do a 14-page email that could have been summed up in 10 words, but I'm not reading it. And so because
that's when you delegate. You'll send it to one of us and be like, "Hey, can you read this?"
I do, don't I? I do. I'm like, "Hey, could you read this?"
Every time I get an email from Eric, it's like, I know it's gonna be a long one.
Oh my God! Please read this and tell me. Just sum up quickly what it says.
Yeah, give me the
I don't
quick
need to
start
know
version.
every little detail. Right, the quick start version. And so I hate doing those things. I mean, I'll use the word hate. I hate calendars and email. Like, just can't stand them. If emails went away tomorrow, I'd be the happiest person. But I know people who love calendars. They love it. It's like a little puzzle to them. And they're like, woohoo. And they have fun doing it. And so good, let those people. And then the things you say, hey, look, I can do them, but I really don't like doing them. So maybe you can find someone else who can help you with that. Try to spend. Here's I would even be more strategic and say, look, how is it that within 12 months from now, you could do 80% of your time what's in the list that you love to do, that you're passionate about doing? Now, if you find that your entire list is outside of your dental practice, that's okay. It just means you got to hire people and you got to move yourself into just a pure owner role and let other people manage it. By the way, it can be done. But you're definitely need to get with Tower. We need to help you create that system, because if that's not an easy system to create, and it does take time and focus. But I would say, look at the things you love to do. When it comes to these vacations, so many people sacrifice, they sacrifice what they really love to do. Or they do it and then they sacrifice income, or they sacrifice, it creates stress because they haven't put the time aside. So this is a great time to take stock, right? And all business owners need to take stock and say, look, what is it I should definitely not be doing? And it's like the QuickBooks one. Let me tell you, every single person if you're listening to this podcast right now and you touch your QuickBooks, I have a very short message for you. Get the hell out of your QuickBooks. Why are you in QuickBooks? By the way, just so you guys know, 95% of your books are freaking wrong. No, Eric. By the way, the more someone argues with me, I've been doing this for a hell of a long time. The more someone argues with me, 100% time, no, Eric, my books are great. Your books are shit. I'm just going to tell you, I've seen them. Yeah. They're garbage. I'm telling you, you think they're right. They're not. And by the way, as I'm saying this right now, people literally are listening to this podcast going, no, my books are great. I'm telling you, no, I'm talking to you. Your books are garbage. And so
I would argue that you haven't even seen them, because most of the time when they're doing their QuickBooks, they can't get you the financials on the practice for 3 months.
For 3 months, right? And then they're wrong. Trust me, they come over and I'm like, oh my gosh, this should be on the balance sheet. This should be on the P&L. Should be, there's no cash flow statement. Yeah. So it's a complete mess. My whole point of telling you this, by the way, I had a doctor say to me one day, he said, Eric, I am the best QuickBook doctor in the entire United States of America. And I said, well, that's great. Congratulations on mastering a $10 an hour job. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, I mean, you could pay someone $10 an hour, but great job. So now I'm not talking about CFO work. CFO is totally different because that's a CPA analyzing the financials. I'm not talking about your guy who tells you, hey, looking at a few different things. I'm talking about, a true analysis. But you got to think about this, and I'm just giving you this right now. I haven't been in my QuickBooks. I don't even know the password. My tax CPA and our CFO, I have an outsourced CFO. They know the password. I don't even know what the password is. Why the hell would I be in there? And so people don't understand. Like there are things like that you go, why are you in? I just love QuickBooks. No, you're doing QuickBooks because you don't know what else to do to grow your business, and it feels busy and it feels good and it makes you feel in control, but there's a system to give you more control. And if you're spending time in QuickBooks, it doesn't even make sense. So when someone tells me, as soon as someone tells me, yes, I do my own QuickBooks, I can cap your growth. I can literally tell you how far you can grow because you don't realize how much time that's consuming. And then sometimes people tell me, like, I was at my practice till 11 o'clock last night. Yeah. What were you doing at your practice at 11 o'clock? If you're listening to this podcast and you're at your practice at 11 o'clock, you need to create some scalability, some big time scalability. I'm not saying we don't all have late days. Certainly we all do. Now, I would argue the person that tells me they're at the practice every day till 11 o'clock probably did that 1 or 2 days, and then they go home at 7 or 6 usually, but that they remember that one time. If I did a time study, and if I was going to do the over and under, I'm just saying. But it is independence. It is independence from those things that weigh you down. And look, I mean, there's old Jim Rohn used to say, people that say that they're busy, it's not a question of busy. The question is, busy doing what? What are you doing when you're busy? What are you doing when you're busy? What is that you find yourself doing that's busy? And then why in the world are you doing it is a better question. These things are saying, look, why should you do that work? I'm not saying it's not important work to do. I'm just asking you why you're doing it, because your jobs, your time's probably worth $2,000 an hour. Yeah, you're spending time in things that you're literally stepping over, I'd say dollars to pick up pennies, but it's like $100 bills to pick up pennies. And so we look at the independence, which is where this message starts from, and just say, look, you need to find ways to find the things you love to do, the things that give you energy, that get you fired up, and then you need to utilize that to grow a scaling business. And then what ends up happening is you can take vacation when you want and not lose income.
Yep. I mean, that's the name of the game. I mean, most of the time people call in and their biggest thing is they want to take time off. They haven't been able to get off in their dental practice. So what can you do from a scalability standpoint to make that happen? Do you have the team in place? What are you spending your time on that you shouldn't be spending on that you can delegate to your other team members or leverage their abilities? A lot of times doctors feel the need to tackle everything in the dental practice when they don't have to do that. Like, the reason why you can't take vacations is because you're doing everything. Simple.
That's
like
right. There's
you're
no
doing everything.
processes.
That's why you can't.
Yeah, there's no processes. There's no scalability. They haven't empowered anybody else. That's right. So if they walk away for 90 days, I would say that when you look at your business, the ultimate goal is for you not have to be there. That's why we started a business. If you were going to do that, then you should be an associate. Okay. If you're not gonna grow and scale your business, there's just no reason to be there. I mean, it's just no reason for you to own a business and deal with all the stress and headaches. The math doesn't play out that you're going to become wealthier that because you own a practice. That's certainly not true. And so it depends on what you do with the practice. Now, you can become very wealthy owning a practice, or you can become very broke owning a practice. If you don't know how to manage it and grow it and scale it, then there's a good chance you could go broke. So don't just assume that you own a practice and then that solves all the problems. The question is, what kind of practice? So it's this idea of busy doing what? This idea of being busy is not productive. Don't just be busy, be productive. What am I doing? One of the things that sometimes doctors, they'll pay me to sit down with them and teach them what to do on a CEO day. This is a great thing, right? What do I do on a CEO day? And they're like, wow, because I've never had this opportunity, Eric. Now I'm working with you and I don't even have to practice clinically. Now what? Well, now we get to go have fun. Now we get to go into acquisitions. Now we get to grow and scale. Now we get to do all these amazing things because of the fact that we're now freed up from all these things. So my message to you today on this podcast is create independence. Set yourself an independence goal. I love that, Matthew. That was a good idea. An independence goal. So
independence goal.
So in 1 year from today, what will you be freed up from? In 1 year from today, what will you no longer have to deal with? And then what I want you to do is I want you to say, what's stopping me from having that right now? What are my obstacles to get there? Mm-hmm. And then what strategies can I implement to overcome those obstacles? And then who's involved? And who do I need to bring involved into that? Because that is the formula that will help you get there and start making strategic steps. One of them might be reaching out to tower leadership to get some instructions. One of them might be leaning into things you're already doing. Some of them might be empowering your team. It might be growing your team. It might be scaling. It might be training. It might be a lot of things. But I would encourage you to create that list, because the more that you can create that list and the less headache and stress you can take off your plate, the more you'll keep this business from the long term, the more lives you'll impact, and the more you'll have. Guys, thanks for listening. Matthew, any parting thoughts?
No, I mean, thanks for joining us virtual. Like we said, it's going to get better as we get the show going. So thank you guys for tuning in. I mean, always let us know if there's something you want to talk about. I know the last few weeks I've been getting emails from doctors, saying, hey, can you discuss this topic? Can you do this? So if you have anything coming up, if in September, October, November, if you're trying to prep for that and you need help on what you should do to get going, let us know. And then I'm happy to make sure we put this in the docket for us to talk about. So thank you guys always for tuning in, and let us know what we can talk about next.
We will see you guys next time.